So Hillary Clinton apparently wants to put us into gulags. Also, we got to discuss this House Speaker replacement situation and a lot more to talk about tonight. So stay tuned. And we are live tonight from the great state of Florida. Welcome, everyone, to the Vince Dow Show. It is October 6th, the year of our Lord 2023. Sorry we did not do a lot of streaming this week. As I told everyone in the first few days of the week, I had a bunch of exams to take, so I was busy, doing school, being a college student. But then I'm finished with my exams, and I'm thinking, okay, time to come back, get back to normal. And then I got sick. And it wasn't, I wasn't exactly dying on the hospital bed, but I didn't have a voice, and I still really don't have a voice. I think you guys can tell, but I figured let's at least power through, end the week here, at least get in a second stream this week. So we are here, folks, and we got a lot to talk about. Hillary Clinton, obviously, and some stuff having to do with the economy and just a lot there, okay? But also, we got to catch up on some stuff here. So, the House Speaker race, right? Donald Trump has officially made an endorsement. What do I think of that entire situation? It's basically a two-way race between Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise, with this whole Donald Trump for Speaker idea kind of being floated as a third option. We'll discuss that. Also, want to discuss, I did a video on this yesterday, but my student government elections at my school. Okay, this is one of the funniest stories you'll ever see. So long story short, the progressive liberal party on my campus got absolutely destroyed in the student elections, which is obviously a great story in itself. But that's not what I want to talk about. They're actually blaming gerrymandering. Okay, gerrymandering being the reason why they lost the student election. So, folks, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Also got to mention this, the fact that Fox News, once again, has completely gone off the rails and is completely out of touch with their own base. So, those are our stories for tonight. But before we begin tonight's show, everyone right now, be sure to leave a like on the stream, subscribe if you are new, and as usual, if you would like to super chat tonight to support the show, you got questions or comments on any of this stuff that you want read and answered, feel free to do so. But with that said, let's get into this. So people might be thinking when I say Hillary Clinton wants to put you into gulags, you may view that as a misrepresentation, and to some degree it is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but listen to what she actually said here. So she did an interview recently with CNN. I don't know why she's still on camera. It's very interesting. I feel like you see her more than Barack Obama. Barack Obama, of course, is the notable Democrat who actually won and was a president. It seems to me we actually see him less than the failed not president, but here you go. Hillary Clinton calls for Trump supporters to be re-educated, saying at some point maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members. What does that mean? Let's take a listen here.
Very strong partisans in both parties in the past, and we had very bitter battles over all kinds of things, gun control and climate change and the economy and taxes. But there wasn't this little tail of extremism wagging the dog of the Republican Party.
The little tail, by the way, is the tail that beat you in the 2016 election. Okay, so just as to point out there, because they always try to do this where they pretend as if Trump supporters or MAGA is some type of fringe tail, quote unquote, of the Republican Party. That's very ironic because the little tail clearly destroyed you, Miss Lady President.
As it is today. And sadly, so many of those extremists, those MAGA extremists, take their marching orders from Donald Trump, who has no credibility left by any measure. He's only in it for himself. He's now defending himself in civil actions and criminal actions. And when do they break with him? Because at some point, maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members, but something needs to happen. And how do you...
Very interesting rhetoric here. Okay, so I don't have much to say other than, okay, Hillary, right? But I do think the central point here, besides the memeing and the kind of back and forth, whatever, beyond what she says in this one interview, yeah, she's irrelevant, she's not the president. I think the big takeaway needs to be that we often talk about this whole idea of authoritarian left-wing takeover in America where, you know, they'll do Soviet-style stuff and it'll actually become dystopian and for real like that. And very often, I know to a lot of people, it seems like unserious rhetoric. It seems like fear-mongering, because I hear a lot of people bring that up. Oh, it's fear-mongering when the left talks about fascism. It's also fear-mongering when the right talks about communism. You know, the Soviet Union or what Mao's China is not coming to America. And to that I say, well, you're right that it's not coming overnight. Okay, yeah, you are right. We do not literally, as a matter of factual reality, currently live in the USSR. However, I don't think that talk is something that should necessarily be disregarded, because you have seen the slippery slope already over the past couple of years, and arguably it's been going on longer than that, but you know, 2016 to around 2019-ish, there's a lot of vitriolic talk against Donald Trump and against a lot of his supporters, but you didn't really, for the most part, although sometimes you did, but you didn't really hear as many mainstream calls to use the power of justice or the government or whatever it is against conservatives in this country. And then what happened? Right now, you're increasingly seeing that. Now they're going after Donald Trump. Now they're using the national security state more and more to spy on conservatives, to indict conservatives, to just harass them, whatever it is. And you hear, and this is very important, this type of dehumanizing, vitriolic, animosity-ridden rhetoric against conservatives in this country. I don't think that this is something that people should ever underestimate, because I know as Americans, we always have this perception that, yeah, as bad as things get, it's still America. Like, this is the first world. Stuff like that doesn't happen here. And I understand the premise for that, because historically, you know, America since the 20th century has been through political divides, this and that, but it's always kind of held together, and we've always kind of come back to the center here. So people just assume because it's happened in the past, it will continue to happen again. I look at increasingly over the past, I'm not going to say the past couple months, obviously, no, the past couple of years now, the rhetoric, the increasing slippery slope in the ways in which political power and the power of the justice system and all of that is wielded against conservatives. You hear rhetoric like this more and more. Hillary Clinton's not the only one to have said it. I think the central takeaway here really ought to be that, hey, you think the idea of them, you know, doing stuff you see, I'm just going to say, doing stuff you read about in history class or whatever it is, I don't think that in many ways that should be viewed as hyperbole. I actually think it's a very serious matter that if we as, I don't know, a conservative movement, if you want to say that, or a Republican Party, or just Americans, whatever it is, if we do not win this peaceful political battle in terms of just restoring any sense of order and normalcy to American politics, you know, because I do believe that. I as much as they call us extremists, I believe our ideas are fundamentally normal, and if we are radically and extremely normal or radically extremely sane, then I'll accept that. But understand that if we end up in the history books being the losing sides of the political argument here, then listen to Hillary Clinton. Listen to people like her. You think that the stuff that they did in these historic dictatorships couldn't happen here? Don't want it to, obviously, but, you know, I think you hear stuff like this, and it should be alarming to you in that sense. Not that Hillary Clinton's ever going to, you know, have the power to do anything, right? But in the sense that on a greater level, the increasing, again, dehumanizing rhetoric against conservatives and right-leaning people, you've seen the history books, right? And, you know, God forbid, but you've seen the history books. You see where that leads. It's dangerous. It's something that should concern all of you and also motivate us in the sense that this is why we need to win the quote-unquote battle of ideas, right? Why we need to ultimately, in the grand scheme of the current culture war, political war, spiritual war that's going on here, be the ones that end up being seen as correct. Because if not, you know, God forbid, I don't know. I don't know, but that's just something to think about. So, you know, this is very real. All right, with that said, folks, we're going to move on here from the... Well, actually, I guess it's on a similar subject, because as she talks about cult behavior, we actually got to do a check-in on liberal VinceDao, okay? On our great friend here on the channel, of course, Victor Shi. Victor Shi is our favorite person by far. He is my evil twin. He's my cousin, whatever you want to say. But first, let me get checked in here on the super chat. So, let's see. Burgundy Blue here for $5 says, Vince, you wouldn't believe it. I also had my midterms and got sick with a cold at the same time. Hope you did well on your exams. Well, the family will be proud, because I actually did do pretty well for once. Very, very good job. Okay. You know, but I think it's a biological thing. Because, you know, you're on midterms, you're stressed, you're not sleeping, your diet is probably crap, and then also it's October, so you're getting the changing of the seasons. I think it's a fairly normal thing, but yeah, I took midterms, and then I crashed and got very sick, you know, during and after it, so that was not fun. But like I said, we're doing our best here, okay? I'm powering through. You can hear in my voice it's not there, but we're powering through, okay? It didn't sound as bad as it did on Tuesday when we did the McCarthy stream, so I will relish in that. All right, again, folks, if you would like to super chat to support tonight's show, feel free to do so. But with that said, we got to move on here to our great friend. Okay, so to the new people on the channel, just to contextualize really quickly, all you need to know about Victor Shi is he is left-wing VinceDao. Okay, the guy obviously is a 21-year-old Asian man at UCLA who is a big-time Joe Biden supporter here, okay? And I kid you not about this. People are going to think this is a joke. If you think I'm joking, if you think I'm exaggerating here, literally just go and read his Twitter timeline. This guy, as I've said, basically talks about Joe Biden in the same exact way. It is not distinguishable from the way that North Korean media talks about Kim Jong-un, okay? And again, if you don't believe that, if you don't believe he is a ridiculous North Korean style propagandist for Joe Biden, again, go read his Twitter. But with that said, we got to do the check-in here on him, and also kind of talk about this in the greater discussion of this recent jobs report that Victor Shi and all the Biden heads are touting. But first, let's frame the story in the context of Victor Shi, because I think that's what you guys would all like. So we got to his Twitter timeline here today, and he says, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say CNN. Okay, keep that in mind. Not Fox News, not Daily Wire, not Blaze TV. CNN, go F yourself. Okay, this is what he says. CNN, go F yourself. This is an outrage. Okay? So you're probably thinking to yourself, chat, you're probably thinking to yourself, whoa, why is VinceDao's evil cousin, mad at CNN? Is he becoming red-pilled? Is he waking up? Is he finally not grifting anymore? What's going on here? No, folks. Unfortunately, the reason he's mad at CNN is because CNN will not say that the Joe Biden economy is perfect and going swell. Okay? So check it out. So he puts two articles here side by side. And I guess CNN published an article here saying why the shockingly good jobs report is going to cost you. You probably think some really great news about the job market would give American spirits a boost, but it won't. And what CNN basically saying in this article, which I will say is surprising to me that CNN's willing to say it, but you've actually seen, for some reason, CNN has been turning on Biden. I think they're trying to get another candidate to run or whatever. But, you know, they're basically saying in this article that there was a jobs report that came out today. I think they said the U.S. added, was it 336,000 jobs, something like that. And Biden is touting it because it's more jobs added to the economy than expected. Of course, the problem with that, and the reason why that will not save Joe Biden in any way, is that no one, when we talk about the Biden economy, no one is really accusing Biden of unemployment being the issue, right? There's not a bunch of joblessness, people can't find work or whatever it is. That's not really the case in the American economy. I mean, you guys are around it, you guys see it. That's not what's going on. The problem is not unemployment. And I'm sure some of you guys, maybe where you live, it's hard to find jobs or whatever. But nationwide, the problem is not unemployment. That's never been the fault of the Biden economy. The problem is that nothing is affordable with the salary you are getting, right? All of the necessities to raise a family in this country, whether that's buying a house, buying and driving a car, food, utilities, literally whatever. That's the problem with the Biden economy, and that's why everyone feels so demoralized, is because there's a sense that even though we are working, even though we do have jobs, and again, this is the reason I say if the Biden camp can tout these job numbers all they want, I don't think it's going to save Joe Biden in the eyes even of the average American public, because that sense of things being unaffordable and that sense of the cost of living in this country really strangling people is not going away. Still, regardless, though, okay, getting back here to the topic of Victor Shi, he compares this because apparently back in 2018, CNN wrote one article giving Donald Trump credit, okay? Analysis by Stephen Collinson in 2018. Trump is right, the economy is doing well, and he deserves some credit back in 2018, okay? So Victor Shi looks at two CNN articles. One is saying that the Joe Biden economy isn't doing fantastically because average Americans can't afford stuff. Of course, according to Victor Shi, that is, of course, a lie. Joe Biden doing so good and everything free in country, everyone can afford. Okay, apparently that's what's going on. And then because they wrote one article back in 2018 saying, yeah, the economy is actually doing kind of well under Trump. That's enough for liberal, Democrat shill, Biden worshiper, Biden cultist, Victor Shi to say, CNN, go F yourself. This is an outrage. In fact, let's read more from this thread here. He says, for context, the headline on the left is from today. After the jobs report showed our economy gaining 336,000 jobs under Biden. The headline on the right is from 2018. After the, I think he means economy there, gained 178,000 jobs. Well, again, folks, the point is not just unemployment. The very point of this article, right, is not in terms of unemployment being the problem in America. That's not the problem in America. The problem in America is, again, cost of living. But, of course, he goes on, nearly double the jobs created under Biden in 1 month, and CNN chooses to spin it negatively. Yeah, maybe they're spinning it negatively because, again, even CNN looks around and says, wow, even if we're adding a bunch of jobs to the economy, we're not fixing the crisis here of nothing being affordable. And again, the cost of living and all of that stuff being in a very bad state. So, but anyways, just wanted to give you guys a brief update on our great friend here, Victor Shi. Okay. Let's actually see how he's treating this whole situation here. Yeah, he's just going on. Yeah, the usual Victor Shi stuff. Okay, but yeah, at some point we actually do got to revisit that National Review article on him because that was really funny and the internet cut out. He literally sabotaged the internet. So, by the way, be very happy that we got through this entire segment with the internet being intact, because the last time that we covered Victor Shi on this channel, he literally cut my cables, okay? We're reading this fantastic National Review article on him, and then what happens? The stream cuts off. So, we got through it, thank God. And Victor Shi, you will not sabotage my internet this time. All right, with that said, let me take a sip of water here to heal my voice. And let's move on, of course, to kind of give you the update and the rundown on this entire situation with the Speaker of the House. Obviously, if you've been living under a rock, as you know, Kevin McCarthy was ousted this week. Long story short, again, I think if we come out of this better, if we get better policies as a result of it, and I am seeing some evidence from this, maybe, we'll see though, then I think this was the right decision. But regardless if you think it was the right decision or not, actually, no, hold on, we'll save that. But I think it's now time to look forward, of course, to the discussion of who's going to replace Kevin McCarthy as the Speaker of the House. And it seems right now that there are two major candidates, okay? It's between Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise. Those are the two kind of major candidates throwing their hat in the race. And there is this third angle talk of nominating Donald Trump for Speaker. Now, to kind of reiterate my take on this when this all happened on Tuesday, I think that whoever comes to replace Kevin McCarthy, obviously they need to be better than McCarthy on these certain policies. So, you know, in terms of doing conservative stuff, in terms of spending, in terms of not giving so much money to Ukraine, in terms of, you know, playing a lot more hardball politics with the Democrats than McCarthy did. Obviously, they need to be more conservative than McCarthy. That's obviously a no-brainer. But the other kind of stuff I added to this discussion is that I also think, they also need to be someone who can unite the party, of course, in a time like this. And I know the idea of party unity is kind of a facade. How do you unite a party of hard right conservatives and total neocons? Like, you know, but they need to be a bipartisan enough figure to kind of get everyone on the same page. And I know people may say that sounds cucked or whatever, but like I said, this is a very unstable situation. It is what it is, but you want to kind of heal the party back together, right? So I said B, that's what you need. So you need someone who's both solidly conservative, but also not too divisive in terms of they're just going to totally tear the party apart. And that's why I said, as much as I would like to see Speaker of the House Matt Gaetz, it's probably not the best strategic political idea here, right? So those are kind of the criteria I gave. And then I said I want someone who also is in touch enough with the GOP donors to where we can still fundraise for 2024. So that was kind of my rundown. Anyways, my take on Tuesday was I thought Byron Donalds would be a good candidate for Speaker. I still think he would be, but it seems like Jim Jordan is the person who emerged and is going to run. And then we got Steve Scalise, and then we got Donald Trump as this third kind of angle here. Okay, so let's go through each of these, and I'll talk about it. First of all, let me say it like this, okay? If Steve Scalise ends up being the new Speaker of the House, I think we've completely wasted our time, all right? Now, in fairness, I'm not an expert on the entire political record of Steve Scalise, so maybe there's something I'm missing here and I'd be open to hearing it out. But from everything I've gathered on Scalise, he basically is more or less the same as Kevin McCarthy, you know? And I think that entire charade would be completely pointless. Now, maybe perhaps there's an angle to which he just, you know, doesn't break his promises and kind of, you know, keeps the promises of McCarthy a little bit better. But realistically and ideally, I think it's a lateral move. And again, you know, if you're going to put the country through all this, if you're going to vacate the speakership, you're going to go through this whole political circus in some ways, you want to come out of that with just a better person, a better Speaker of the House. I don't see that in Steve Scalise. I am totally opposed to that, okay? Now, on the topic of Jim Jordan, I do think, you know, again, he's not my favorite congressman. I will say that. There are things I think he's a little bit soft on, whatever it is. But I think when you balance out all the factors here, I think he's one of the better choices. Okay, so I will say this whole idea right now of Jim Jordan being a speaker, of the current candidates, I'd probably say he's the best one to go through with. Because again, he, by the way, already vowed, and who knows? Maybe he breaks his promises like McCarthy too. You know, you can never trust these politicians. But first and foremost, one of the big issues with McCarthy obviously was the Ukraine stuff. He has already vowed that we're not going to do that. We're not going to give all this funding to Ukraine that they want. So that's obviously already one big step up already. And, you know, if he keeps that same attitude in terms of other budgeting and other issues and border security or whatever, and just playing a more hardball politics, really obstructing the Democrats. You know, I know the term obstruction is seen as a bad thing. Oh, we wanted to avoid a government shutdown. That's what McCarthy was trying to do. I totally disagree. The more you can stonewall Joe Biden's agenda, the more I think that's a good thing. Why do you want Joe Biden's agenda to get through? I mean, so, whatever. But, you know, but the thing about Jim Jordan is he, much like Byron Donalds, I feel like is one of those people in the Republican Party that no one particularly really has anything bad to say about him. Right? He is more MAGA aligned. Obviously, Donald Trump has always been a big fan of his. But so obviously the MAGA side of the Republican Party all seem to like Jim Jordan. Again, like I've said in the past, he's not really my favorite. I think there are issues he's weak on. I think, you know, he's too soft on big tech and stuff like that. But again, you know, we need someone practical. And on the flip side, he's not as divisive as a Matt Gaetz, a Lauren Boebert, a Marjorie Taylor Greene even. So I know Donald Trump went out today and endorsed Jim Jordan. I think that's a good pick. You know, if that's kind of the list of candidates here, I think we should go through with him and just give it a shot and see what happens, right? I think if you get a speaker, Jim Jordan, it's probably an upgrade from McCarthy, and this whole exercise would not have been a waste of time. So that's option number 2. Of course, option number 3 here is the nuclear option, which is the talk, and you know, and Donald Trump has endorsed Jim Jordan, so I don't think this is going to happen, but he will be in DC next week, so we'll see what happens, right? To at least temporarily make Donald Trump the Speaker of the House, okay? Here's my thing about that. If we're going to do that for the meme because it would be funny, and maybe in a way we should view politics like that, because are you going to look at the current situation of everything and continue to take it that seriously? I mean, we live in a clown country. We might as well just kind of troll them all, right? But I'll be honest, though. I'll be honest. And I know you guys might get kind of mad, but I'm really not the biggest fan of this idea. I'm really not, okay? First of all, even from a Donald Trump perspective, he's in the middle of a presidential campaign. He's also in the middle of a bunch of legal battles. I mean, this whole week he spent in New York in a courtroom. So is it the smartest? And I know it doesn't really matter, but like functionally speaking, is it the smartest or best look or just best idea overall to have a Speaker of the House who's really going to be pretty absentee as Speaker, right? Again, would it be funny? Yes. Would I get mad and go off and say, how dare they do? Of course not. You know, if Donald Trump's the speaker, I'm fine with it. I think it's funny and I would go for it. But why I don't think this is the best idea, again, is that number 1. And of course, number 2, from a politically strategic perspective, because again, I think it's also important here to consider, right? The motion to vacate is a very bold thing. We have you divided and fractured GOP right now, right? I'm not saying this. I'm not saying this at all. But to all of the conservatives, and they're not all bad people. Truly, I don't believe that. Now, of course, there's a lot of neocons who are just, Ukraine funding, we need to keep McCarthy there. But there are a lot of skeptics, real conservatives in the GOP, who don't think this vacate motion was the best idea because they think it wasn't good strategy, it was bad timing, it wasn't an appropriate response, it's screwing us over in 2024 or whatever. And of course, just a lot of maybe independent Americans who feel like, you know, the GOP is just a circus right now. Again, some of you guys might get mad at me for saying this, but I think if we respond to this whole situation, of course, by using it as an excuse to very comically make that may confirm a lot of their suspicions that this whole thing was just kind of a political op and just kind of a stunt, kind of a circus to just get Matt Gaetz and the MAGA people a bunch of attention. Again, I'm not saying that. Of course, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like I said, I don't know if it was the best look. It would be the best look to do that, okay? Because we also need to show, in a sense, to the people who are skeptical here, no, this motion to vacate was not a political circus. No, it was just not because of a personal beef with McCarthy. We did this for very serious reasons, which I do believe that. I do believe Matt Gaetz was doing that. We did this for very serious reasons to oust McCarthy because he was not enacting a conservative agenda, and here's our viable, permanent, long-term pick to replace the former Speaker of the House. And if you just go and have Donald Trump as Speaker for like 4 weeks as a meme and then replace it with a new Speaker as he goes to run the presidential campaign, is that the smartest look? Is that the smartest strategic thing to do? Again, you know, I'm open to being swayed here, but I just don't think it is. I don't think it is. And again, you know, if you want to say I'm just taking the whole process too seriously and I need to embrace the meme, embrace the joke, then again, I'm fine with that. Okay, if Donald Trump becomes a Speaker of the House, I will just make a bunch of jokes about it, of course, and think it's funny. I am just saying, if you want to go down the angle here of making this all look like a very serious thing and truly actually making it a serious thing, or so, but maybe for the next 2 years or 4 years, right? Who's going to actually lead the Republican Party for the next few years? And, you know, I don't really see the point other than it being kind of funny of using this as an opportunity to get Donald Trump as Speaker. But like I said, you know, maybe I'm wrong on that, and I'd be open to being swayed on that. But I think if the current field is between Scalise, Jim Jordan, and this third angle idea of putting Donald Trump out there, I think realistically best choice is to do what Donald Trump himself is endorsing us doing, which is just, let's get behind Jim Jordan. Good enough, right? Not a perfect Republican, but one of the better ones, so good enough. Call it a day. You have a much better speaker than you had before. You know, and at least that can be cleaner and arguably a lot less divisive and controversial within our own party. Again, it's a divided party. We got to bring it back together here, right? After this whole process, than, you know, the Trump stunt. But maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I mean, I'd be happy to feedback, but it's personally not my favorite idea in the world. Anyways, with that said, folks, let's get on here to our super chats before we move on with tonight's stream. I'm not going to lie. My voice is really starting to hurt. But we'll see if we can make it till 9 o'clock, okay? That's the goal. Let's try to make it through the full hour at least. But man, is it in pain right now. But anyways. Okay, are we back? Are we back? All right, I think we're back. Victor Shi cut the internet again. Thank you very much for that, Victor Shi. Thank you. Thank you, Victor Shi. I can't do any streams these days without Victor Shi cutting the internet or Chris Christie eating it. Many such cases. Okay, let's just start where we left off here. Who was the last super chat? Okay. All right, Streamlabs is not working. I'm just going to read them here. Real Text and Politics for $2 says Republicans for Ukraine gave Jim Jordan an F. Well, you know, that's good news. That's good news. That's a good sign. And that certainly gives me reassurance, right? Because like I said, there are issues with Jim Jordan that I have that I think on some levels he's overrated, you know, on some issues. But if Republicans for Ukraine is giving him an F, and again, the Ukraine funding is going to be one of the biggest issues he's going to have to tackle, then that gives me kind of mental security in terms of thinking, okay, well, you know, I think this guy can be a significant upgrade from McCarthy. So thank you for the $2 Real Text and Politics, and that's good news. That's good news. You love to hear it. Burgundy Blue for $20. Thank you very much. Says, honestly, Vince, you know I'm not a rhino and am against Ukraine spending. However, this decision was incredibly stupid. In best case scenario, Steve becomes speaker. Worst case scenario, Dems get one of their own as speaker. Thank you for the $20, Burgundy Blue. Well, the Democrats wouldn't get their own as speaker unless Republicans vote for it, because you have to get to 218 regardless. So the Democrats can keep voting on Hakeem Jeffries, but that's probably not going to happen. But I would say Jim Jordan is a very realistic outcome here. Okay, obviously Scalise is running, but keep this in mind. Jim Jordan has a lot of mainstream endorsements. Even some of the neocons like Mark Levin, who have been, you know, very against this McCarthy stuff, have said they're fine with Jim Jordan. So, like I said, he kind of plays both sides there to a degree that you kind of need for the situation. And biggest thing, I think, is Donald Trump has endorsed Jim Jordan for speaker. So I don't, you know, I too am worried about Scalise, but I don't think it's anywhere close to a guarantee that Scalise becomes speaker. I think if anything, it would seem to me that Jim Jordan is actually the favorite right now to become the speaker, but you never know. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. But, you know, as I said on Tuesday night stream, this, and by the way, it's bigger than Ukraine funding. Keep that in mind. It also has to do with a lot of budgeting and stuff, and just the fundamental fact that when the 19 Republicans flipped and voted to make Kevin McCarthy speaker, they had a very specific list of promises, and he basically just recklessly broke them all, right? And most of them have to do with spending, but it's not just Ukraine funding, right? There was also stuff in terms of we're going to do single issue bills and we're going to get the Republicans to agree on these packages before we vote for them. And he just broke all of that. So that's something to keep in mind. But, you know, I again, we got to see what happens. But I don't think that the best case scenario is Scalise. I think that the whole Jim Jordan thing, to me, at least at the current moment, seems to be very realistic. So sorry I keep stuttering over myself, but my voice is like killing me right now. But yeah, thank you for the $20 burgundy blue. Gianna for $5 says, Victor Shi is your evil, ugly twin, and you're his based Chad twin. Also, shout out to Omar, who's wasting time at work instead of watching you, SMH. Yeah, how dare he have a job and a regular life? Omar, you can't be doing this. You need to be watching the content 24/7. Thank you for the $5, Gianna. Joking, of course. All right, Burgundy Blue for $10 says, Matt Gaetz kind of just did this even for his own ego. Even MTG and Boebert voted in favor of keeping McCarthy. All this did is divide the party. He was a bad speaker, but removing him makes us look incompetent. Thank you for the $10, Burgundy Blue. Well, Burgundy, go watch my Tuesday stream, okay? I addressed all these talking points here, okay? I mean, first of all, MTG has been a very big McCarthy person since the beginning, so I don't think her vote counts at all, okay? Because she voted for McCarthy the first time around. Boebert, to tell you the truth, the real reason Boebert voted for McCarthy is because, as you know, she's a little bit wrapped up in scandal right now, and I think wants to avoid that, to say the least. Now, again, in terms of was it strategically the right thing at the right time, you know, on that discussion, was it morally right? I think so. Was it the strategically best thing at the right, the right thing at the right time? Again, like I said on Tuesday stream, that's all going to come down to how this all plays out in the end, right? Again, if we get a Speaker of the House, Jim Jordan, I think this is a net good. If we get Steve Scalise, then yeah, I would agree with you. It's a waste of time. But I think we also have to see who becomes the next speaker and what do they do, right? Because I think it is important to point out that Kevin McCarthy broke a bunch of the promises he made. And by the way, it really was an F around and find out situation by Kevin himself because, you know, these discussions were had, right? We voted for you as speaker because you made these promises to us as the conservative wing of the party. You explicitly broke them. You explicitly showed you had total disregard for them. You went to Democrats to get the votes for these funding packages. And then we turn around and say, okay, F around and find out. We told you we were going to do this to you and we're following through on our promises, right? Because keep in mind, Kevin McCarthy made promises to the MAGA people here. Well, Matt Gaetz and the All right, we're back. Anyways, as I was saying, you know, so I don't think it's conclusive whether or not you can say in the grand scheme of things yet that this was the right decision, you know, because the thing is that if, let's say, Jim Jordan becomes a speaker and he ends up being a much better speaker than McCarthy and fixes a lot of the issues that are going on, obviously, no one's going to remember by November 2024 what happened here. It'll be a footnote. Of course, and by the way, people will be so distracted by the presidential election, no one's even going to really care. So I don't think its entire thing objectively, conclusively was a political stunt. And like I said, go watch my Tuesday stream. I went through all of this. I do understand, like I said, that argument. But again, this really comes down to who is the replacement speaker. That's all it comes down to. That's all it comes down to, and that's all it should come down to. So thank you for the $10 there, Burgundy Blue. Let's take a look here. But fundamentally, let me just say one last thing, okay? I don't think that Matt Gaetz just quote unquote did it for his own ego. He made a very explicit promise that if Kevin McCarthy does not follow through on the promises he made when you know the 19 Republicans agreed to put him into power, then he's going to vote to vacate the speakership. And he threatened to do it over the last few weeks, Kevin McCarthy ignored those threats, thinking, oh, well, I'd have nothing to worry about. By the way, another factoid here is that Kevin McCarthy was also relying on Democrat votes. Fun fact, the rumor is in D.C. that he thought that he would get Democrat votes. Okay. Oh, yeah, the 9 or so or 8 Republicans might vote to vote me out. But because I work with the Democrats on the spending package, maybe I'll get some Democrat votes. And of course, what happened? The Democrats totally threw him under the bus. So I don't see this as a Matt Gaetz ego thing at all. I think that Kevin McCarthy is to blame here because he didn't follow through. They were very explicit. Hey, these are our terms when they made the negotiation. He just blatantly disregarded all of them. And then now, he's the victim in this situation. I don't see it like that at all. Now, again, I will reiterate, whether or not it was the right decision by Matt Gaetz, again, is going to come down to who ends up being the replacement and what comes of this. So I agree on that part. But I don't think fundamentally it has anything to do with Matt Gaetz' ego. I think it's a very ration thing in terms of he and his group made promises to the people. Kevin McCarthy also made promises to the people. Only difference is Matt Gaetz followed through on the very explicit promises that he made to the people. And I don't think you could fault him for that or attack him for that or blame him for that at all. So, but yeah, thank you for the $10. Republican Thinker here for $5 Canadian says, I endorse. I don't know if I can read that. I don't know if I can read that on YouTube, but thank you for the $5 Canadian. Because if I read, obviously you're joking, and obviously it's like a tongue-in-cheek meme. But YouTube might be like, oh, well, so as a formal matter, I disavow your super chat because YouTube. But thank you for the $5 Canadian. Appreciate it very much. Omar for 2 says, I'm here, just AFK, lol. Well, no problem, Omar. Appreciate you being here. But anyways, all right. Before Victor Shi cuts our internet cables once again, by the way, if it does happen again here, just refresh. We'll be back in like 15 seconds because that's just what it loves to do. It loves to cut out for 15 seconds apparently and then come back. Let's take a look here. I mean, as you can imagine, Fox News has been completely disgraceful through this entire Kevin McCarthy situation. But I want to react to this clip because not enough people talked about this here, okay? And look, nothing at this point surprises me from Fox News. It didn't surprise me that they let Tucker Carlson go. So what really can surprise you? We know how they are. We know how they really feel about the authentic conservatives in this country and all of that. But I do have to say, one of the guys who voted, to remove McCarthy here, are having a debate about, whether it's the right decision to remove McCarthy, which of course is fine. Brian can have his own opinion on that as a Fox News anchor or whatever. They can disagree. But Brian basically invokes faith here and implies that if you are in favor of removing Kevin McCarthy from the speakership, that the representative here is basically not a real Christian. Which, of course, is like, what does faith even have to do with this decision? Of course, we should pray on everything. We should ask for the Lord's wisdom and discernment on everything. But, I don't think the issue of whether or not you think Kevin McCarthy should be speaker is a dividing line for Christians, right? I think you can feel either way about it, and that's how you feel, right? I don't think it's a fundamentally dividing issue among Christendom, but just take a listen to this, okay? This is just sad to watch. Take a listen.
Are you happy following Matt Gaetz? Is that your leader?
I'm not following Matt Gaetz. I made my own decision. I didn't ask Matt.
But if Matt Gaetz didn't challenge, you weren't going to challenge.
Do what?
If Matt Gaetz didn't stand up, you weren't going to challenge. You know that.
I believe I would have.
Oh, come on.
Oh, well.
Please. You were praying about it 1 minute. The next minute, you're going to leave. Pray.
So first of all, before we even get into the part I'm talking about here, why is he so angry? I see this guy on Fox and Friends and stuff. He's usually a nice guy. The guy, he's angry. It's already a bad look. He's clearly just unhinged and asking bad faith questions and just kind of screaming at the guy. So already it's not a good look here. But listen to what he says next.
You were praying about it 1 minute. The next minute, you're going to lead an insurgency?
So you don't think that praying about it's important? Is that what you're saying?
One minute you're praying about how you're going to vote with Matt Gaetz. And the next minute you're going to lead an insurgency?
Listen, you got a predetermined answer to everything. I
have an opinion about what's going on. Do you have an opinion too?
What a just revolting question and thing to say. How dare you pray about whether or not you're going to vote to remove Kevin McCarthy? You know? By the way, it's not an insurgency, okay? I don't know what argument that even is, but the motion to vacate is a legal part of the governmental process. So I don't even know what that has to do with it, but still, yeah, like how dare he pray on this very difficult decision? How dare he ask God for discernment and wisdom in terms of, you know, whether or not he should make this very difficult decision. And yeah, I guess if you disagree with Kevin McCarthy being speaker, if you think that Kevin McCarthy should be removed because he broke his promises, which is obviously not a good or moral thing to do, then how dare you pray on that? Yeah, don't bring faith into this. How can a Christian support removing Kevin McCarthy? Don't you know where it says in Republican 316 that, you know, for Kevin McCarthy so loved America that he gave to it his only begotten Ukraine omnibus spending bill so that Zelensky and his government shall not perish from this earth. Like, what are you talking about? So, you know, it's just, he's angry the whole time. It's disgraceful. And it's just a terrible look for Fox News. Okay, it's already a bad look just the way he is. But this is your take, Fox? To all the Christians in this country who have their own opinion on Kevin McCarthy, you're not being a real Christian if you support a motion to vacate on the Speaker of the House. It's repulsive. It's again, nothing against Brian personally, you know. I don't know the guy. I'm not super familiar with the guy. I don't know how he feels about other issues. I'm told by many people he's one of the better people left at Fox. I'll take, you know, your word on it. But that's just not a good look. That's just not a good look at all. And it's insulting. It's insulting, you know. But that's Fox News for you. What can you say? That's Fox News. The network that is supposedly on your side, right? They're supposed to be the right-wing network that will not be CNN, not toe the line of the far radical secular left. That's what they're doing. You know, it's basically parallel to when progressive Christians, you know what I'm talking about, right? When progressive Christians will basically go on and say, oh, if you support the GOP, you're not a real Christian because God says to love everyone and the Republican Party's hateful because they believe in social conservatism. It's literally the same exact nonsense. Okay? Unbelievable. All right, let's get to our super chats here. And honestly, guys, my voice is killing me, so we're probably just going to end the show here. So we'll do super chats here until about 9 o'clock. So if you do got questions, comments, anything you want read and answered on the stream, feel free to do so via these super chats. And then we're going to call it a night because I can't talk anymore. This is just... We made it, though. We made it through an hour. I was stuttering over myself in the second half because my voice hurts. But... Let's close out the night here with our super chats. All right. Gianna for $5 says the government has been pumping drugs into communities and cities for decades. This is a targeted attack. Also, I keep forgetting Pence is there. Wait, is this a current super chat? Is this from the Republican debate? I don't know why Streamlabs just showed up a donation from the Republican debate. That's or is that here? No, that's from the... Okay. Thank you for the $5, Gianna. I don't know why it showed an old super chat there, but, okay, Burgundy Blue for $5 says, you make a good point. We'll have to see what comes next, but I get a bad feeling from this, and I'm glad we can disagree on the show and debate about this. Yeah, of course. Thank you for the $5, Burgundy. Well, you know, I was very unsure because it seemed like it was unclear who was going to be the replacement speaker, but I feel decently about Jim Jordan. I feel decently about him. You know, even if he's not a perfect speaker, I think it's a significant enough upgrade from McCarthy to where I won't say it was a complete waste of time. You know what I mean? But yeah, thanks for the 5. Let's take a look here. Gianna for $10. I can't read that on YouTube. I can't read that on YouTube, at least the first half. But the second half, thank you for the 10, says, also, I like Matt. He's based and has a Trump attitude. We're talking about Gates, right? Matt Gates. However, I'd vote for any man Trump endorsed who is genuine and right-leaning. Thank you for the $10, Gianna. And yeah, like I said, I think Jim Jordan is a good practical pick here. You know, I really think of the suitable people for this. It was really either Jim Jordan or Byron Donalds. I said Byron Donalds on Tuesday. Jim Jordan is basically on the same level to me, in my opinion. You know, so I think it's a good decision. Republican thinker for $5 Canadian says, going to be hunting for my first time next week. I'm looking to bring a turkey home for Thanksgiving. Thank you for the $5. Republican thinker. Isn't it a little early to be hunting a turkey for Thanksgiving? Well, maybe it'll get busy, right? But yeah, thank you for the $5 Canadian and good luck and good hunting, of course. So are you going to have to like freeze the turkey? I'm sorry I'm not a based homesteader here who knows how this stuff works. But you got to like freeze it for a month and a half almost. I feel like you'd be better off going turkey hunting in November. But that is a very casual take of mine. So I literally just said that so you can roast me and correct me on hunting season and how it all works. But yeah, thank you for the $5, Republican thinker. Appreciate it very much. Like I said, guys, we'll end the stream here in about 4 minutes. So last call for any super chats, questions, comments, thoughts on all this you want read and answered. Feel free to do so. October is Thanksgiving in Canada. All right, well, there you go. All right, there you go. See, I stand corrected. I stand corrected. Thank you for the $5, Republican thinker. I knew I was going to get roasted. I didn't think I was going to get roasted like that. But, you know, I knew it was coming. So, yes, I was corrected. Thanksgiving. Okay. Anyways, as I was saying, Victor Shi... We need to file a lawsuit against Victor Shi, okay? Victor Shi, stop destroying my internet, okay? Your Honor, Victor Shi was seen messing with my cables. His tweets, he was actually doing DDoS attacks, okay? He's doing DDoS attacks. Joking, of course, okay? This is all a joke. Don't take this as... Okay, but all his tweets about Joe Biden... about how Joe Biden is best man ever and Joe Biden is #1 and Joe Biden born at age of 3, able to walk already, you know, blah, blah, blah. Actually is creating a DDoS attack that periodically knocks my stream out for 10 to 15 seconds. Okay. So someone needs to investigate this. Anyways, as I was saying, I'm not the biggest fan of turkey meat, I'll be honest. It's very dry, but turkey leg, unbelievable, okay? Some of the best food, frankly, that I think, quote-unquote, American cuisine has to offer. And I'm very curious as to what a wild turkey leg tastes like. I don't think I've ever had that. So, could you imagine a wild turkey? A turkey that actually walks around? Would that taste better or worse, though, is a good question, though. Because the quality of the meat would be better. There'd probably be less fat on it, you know, on the skin. But I don't know. I like to try a wild turkey leg for sure. All right. Last call for super chats here. Let me check and make sure I didn't miss any. And then we will call it a night because my voice cannot make it. Maybe I should just talk like this for the rest of the stream. Take a rest. Hello, everybody. You're listening to VinceDao Radio on Sirius XM. No, actually, I have like the public radio voice, huh? Have you seen that one Family Guy episode on the public radio voice? You're listening to The Lunch Hour with Brian Griffin. They were reviewing, this book, and I don't know. I don't remember. Talk like that ASMR vids. Yeah, unironically, when I talk like this, my voice doesn't hurt. It's actually comfortable. I can actually do it. Okay. I have the RFK voice. That's a bad joke. Just kidding. Okay. I'm not gonna say we love RFK, but I don't think he deserves to catch strays like that just because my voice is not working. However, this is true. This is true. Okay. All right. If we have no other super chats, then Aaron M says, "Go get your booster, Vince." Yeah, I heard about that. I heard there's like new boosters out. Every time I get sick, I'm actually surprised we don't see that more often. Where they're like, "You're not vaccinated. That's why you got sick." But the problem is that vaccinated people can't really say that because there's plenty of vaccinated people who get just as sick basically all the time these days. So, but that said, this is true. VinceDao members block. I can't do members block. My voice is not going to make it. My voice is not going to make it. But it's funny. When I first looked at your thing there, it looked like it said like menthols, and I actually sound like that one lady who is on those anti-smoking commercials. You know what I'm talking about? Like with the tube right here. And she's like, "Don't smoke, guys. It's really bad for you." That's actually what the ASMR voice sounds like. Okay. Chaotic Antifreeze says, "Vince is my favorite African-American conservatives." I appreciate it very much. I appreciate it very much. All right, with that said, folks, I'm going to call it a night here. And just in time, the internet cuts out. Okay. All right, as I was saying before, we were rudely interrupted. I'm going to call it a night here. I'm going to go rest the voice. Hopefully, over the weekend, it gets back to the prime state. Although, the one thing I will say, it's really hard to talk for an hour like this, but I do kind of like when I have the little rasp in my voice because it makes me sound basically older and like rugged, and it's kind of cool, but it's hard to talk for an hour with it. But anyways, with that said, everyone, before you go, be sure to leave a like on the stream. We will probably be live back again here on Monday, and probably we should have some content videos over the weekend. So be sure to join us for all of that. Leave a like, and until next time, folks, Alpha Moves only. God bless. Have a very good night, and peace. Gargle some bourbon. Does that actually work? I'm fine. It's hard to talk for like a whole hour, okay? All right. Good night, guys. Yeah. That's funny, though. They did used to use whiskey for medicine. But anyways, all right, good night, guys.
Okay, I just want to make this little video today because it's a little concerning. I'm seeing a lot of anti-blackness in general. Like a lot of anti-blackness from the Asians. Okay? Talking about Asian hate, but I think it's more like black hate. Okay? And I just want to point something out that, the original Japanese was black. Right here, here's a picture. These are clearly African features on these indigenous people.
Shut up. Okay. I didn't mean to do that.